Section S6.1 is a supplemental section before Chapter 6 where we're talking about identifying the appropriate statistical procedure. The learning objective is determine the appropriate statistical analysis for a given question or problem based on the type of data. So there are a couple things we need to look at. First of all, we need to tell if there is a test question or a confidence interval question. So whether we're trying to test a claim or estimate a parameter value. The next thing we need to check is whether we have categorical or quantitative data. If it's categorical data, the procedure will be about a proportion or proportions. If it's quantitative data, the procedure will be about a mean or means. And then finally, we need to check to see if we have one or two groups that are being compared. That will tell us if it's a procedure for one mean or for the difference between two means, or for one proportion or the difference between two proportions. So let's look at these examples. Fill in the blank with the appropriate letter corresponding to one of these statistical procedures. So notice that the list of procedures consists of hypothesis tests and confidence intervals for population proportions, population means, as well as the difference between two means and the difference between two proportions. So this first example says, test if the proportion of non-traditional students who also have a full-time job is less than 75%. So this question talks about a test, so we can eliminate all the answers that say confidence interval. It also has the word proportion, so we know that it's going to be for a proportion. And we're looking just at non-traditional students and then checking to see whether they have a full-time job or not. So we have one group of non-traditional students, and then our characteristic that we're interested in for our categorical variable is whether or not they have a full-time job. So this is a hypothesis test for just one proportion, the population proportion. So this is A. 2, estimate the difference between the proportion of male and female students who are non-traditional. So notice the word estimate. That tells us that we are going to compute a confidence interval. It also has the word difference here, and so we're going to look at the difference between two proportions. The word proportions also in the question. The two groups that we're comparing are male and female students, and the categorical variable that we're interested in is whether or not they are non-traditional. So we want a confidence interval because of the word estimate. We want the difference between two proportions. And so this is procedure H. Confidence interval for the difference between two proportions. Part 3. Test whether the proportion of non-traditional students who receive financial aid is higher than the proportion of traditional students who receive financial aid. So this is a test. Again, two groups. Now those who receive financial aid and those who are traditional and those who are non-traditional, and then our variable of interest is whether or not they receive financial aid. So therefore, this is a hypothesis test for the difference of two proportions. Part 4, test whether the mean GPA of non-traditional students is above 3.5. I just have one group of non-traditional students. It talks about a test and it talks about a mean. So this is a hypothesis test for the population mean. 5, estimate the average height of all Salt Lake Community College students. Estimate tells us that we are dealing with a confidence interval. Height is quantitative, so we're going to be dealing with a mean. Remember that average is another word for the mean. We just have one group, Salt Lake Community College students. So this is a confidence interval for the population mean, which is option D. 6, estimate the difference between the average heights of male Salt Lake Community College students and female Salt Lake Community College students. Okay, estimate, again, tells us it's a confidence interval. Heights tells us it's quantitative, and so it'll be for the means. And I have two groups, male Salt Lake Community College students and female Salt Lake Community College students. So this is a confidence interval for the difference between two means. Move this down so that we can see all of the options for our last two questions here. Test whether the mean GPA of non-traditional students is different from the mean GPA of traditional students. Two groups, non-traditional and traditional, quantitative response variable, GPA, and this is a test. So therefore this is a hypothesis test for the difference between two means. And finally, part 8, estimate the proportion of Salt Lake Community College students who receive financial aid. Here I have just one group of Salt Lake Community College students. I have a categorical response variable, whether or not they receive financial aid. I also have the word proportion, and I have the word estimate, which tells me that I need to compute a confidence interval for the population proportion.